I want you to put yourself in a very specific situation for a moment. And I really want you to visualize this because it starts out feeling like, the most normal, mundane American experience possible.
Right. Something we've all done.
Exactly. So you've just moved into a new home. You've got the boxes unpacked. The paint is drying. You are finally settling into your own space.
Best feeling in the world.
It is. But then pretty quickly, you notice something strange happening next door.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. You realize your new neighbor is running a full-blown illegal operation right out of his house. I mean, not just a minor nuisance, but a persistent illicit business.
Which is incredibly stressful when you just bought a place.
Completely. So doing what literally any responsible homeowner would do to protect their property and, well, their peace of mind, you report it to the city. You file the paperwork, you make the call, and you just assume the system will handle it.
Because that is the basic social contract we all operate under, right? See a hazard, you notify the authorities investigate, and the problem gets resolved.
Yeah. I mean, it's the entire premise of municipal government.
Exactly. But now, imagine discovering a detail that just makes your stomach drop.
Right.
The neighbor you just reported, the guy running the illegal operation, happens to be the first cousin of a local police officer.
Wow. Yeah, that changes things.
Right. Off the bat, that is enough to make anyone a little uncomfortable. You might start second-guessing if you should have just, kept your head down.
Sure, because nobody wants to be on the bad side of the local precinct.
Right. But you figure, hey, there are rules. There are conflict of interest policies. It's a modern police department, right? It's not a 1920s mob syndicate.
You rely on the assumption that bureaucratic firewalls exist, to prevent personal vendettas from infecting official police business.
Right. But what if those firewalls are completely imaginary? I mean, imagine that this specific police officer decides to protect his cousin.
He doesn't just look the other way or, conveniently lose your complaint in the mail. He actively uses his badge, his authority, and his unrestricted access to government databases to legally kidnap you.
It's terrifying.
It is. Imagine he goes into the system and places you on a secret government watch list, officially classifying you as a threat to society.
Mm-hmm.
He weaponizes mental health protocols to have you dragged out of your home.
Which is just an incredible abuse of power.
And this is the part that sounds like it was ripped straight out of a paranoid Hollywood thriller, but I assure you it is absolute documented fact. Imagine that same officer later transfers to the police records department.
Mm-hmm.
Why? So he can personally oversee the redaction and destruction of the evidence of his own crimes against you?
It sounds entirely like fiction. I mean, if you submitted that as a screenplay, a studio executive would tell you it's too far-fetched.
Right, they'd laugh you out of the room.
They really would. They would say the villain is too cartoonishly corrupt and the system is, too incredibly broken. But the paper trail, the digital footprints, and the federal court filings make it undeniably clear that this is not a script. This is reality.
It is reality, and that is exactly what our deep dive is about today. We are looking at the terrifying, completely documented ordeal of a woman named Lawana A. Reed.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to deconstruct what is essentially a perfectly executed, closed-loop police conspiracy carried out by the Oakland Police Department.
And we are not just going to talk about, a bad day or a misunderstanding.
No, not at all.
We are going to expose the anatomy of a cover-up that began in 2019 but is still incredibly actively happening right now in March of 2026.
It's wild that it's still ongoing.
It really is. And to do that, we have an incredibly detailed blueprint in front of us. We're looking at a mountain of primary sources that tell the whole story.
Let's talk about those sources.
Right. So we have federal court filings, specifically a Federal Rule 59 e-motion. We have multiple FOIA, or Public Records Act requests, and the official, deeply hypocritical responses to them.
Yeah, the hypocrisy there is just staggering.
We'll definitely get into that. We also have internal emails from public defenders, and perhaps most chillingly, we have second-by-second breakdowns of police body cam footage.
Second by second.
Yes. And the premise we need to establish right up front is this. What we are looking at is an absolute masterclass in how bureaucratic systems, public records laws, and internal police procedures are weaponized to erase the truth and silence a citizen.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's go back to the very beginning, to the timeline of the initial setup. Because the foundation of this entire nightmare was laid before any police cruisers even showed up at Lawana's door.
Yeah, the genesis of the October 1st, 2019 kidnapping really requires us to look at the players involved. As you mentioned in the scenario, Lawana Reed moved into her home, and shortly after, she reported an illegal cannabis cultivation operation happening right next door.
Right.
The neighbor running this operation was a man named Moses Jocko Jr.
And here's the massive glowing red flag. Moses Jocko Jr. is the first cousin of Oakland Police Officer John Jocko Romero. But hold on, before we go further, I need to understand Officer Romero's role here, because he wasn't just like a random beat cop who happened to get the call, right?
Not at all. Officer Romero was the sole officer assigned to the Oakland Police Department Cannabis Unit.
Wait, I'm stuck on this. A single guy makes up the entire cannabis unit for a city the size of Oakland.
Yes.
And his cousin is running an illegal weed grow next door to the woman complaining about it.
It is a stunning concentration of power and, frankly, a massive conflict of interest. I mean, as the sole officer in that unit, he is the primary point of contact and the absolute authority on exactly the type of illegal cultivation Lawana was reporting.
So it all goes to him.
Exactly. When complaints about illegal cannabis grows come into the department, they route directly to his desk.
So Lawana unknowingly reports the cousin of the weed cop to the weed cop? You can instantly see how dangerous this is. But Romero doesn't just, kill the investigation into his cousin. He goes on the offensive against the whistleblower. And he does it entirely from behind a computer screen.
Which is the most insidious part of the initial setup. Officer Romero used the administrative power of his position to manufacture a completely alternate reality on paper.
Just entirely made up.
Right. He authored a citizen's crime report, specifically CCR number 1904839. He prepared an ex parte temporary restraining order, or TRO, and he wrote the reporting party card, known as the RP card.
Okay, for those of us who haven't spent time working in a police precinct, how exactly does an RP card function? Like, what is the actual mechanism there?
Think of an RP card as the ignition switch for a police encounter.
Okay.
When a citizen calls in a crime or an officer initiates an action, an RP card is generated. It details who is reporting the incident, who the suspect is, and what the alleged crime or situation entails.
So it's the official record.
Right. It gets logged into the central dispatch and record system. That card is the official documented order that tells patrol officers on the street, go to this address, find this person, and take this specific action.
So by offering the CCR, the TRO, and the RP card himself, Romero is essentially playing the victim, the witness, the judge, and the dispatcher all at once.
He really is.
He generated the entire legal predicate for her arrest from his desk. But how did he make sure that the officers who eventually showed up wouldn't just ask Lawana a few questions and, leave?
That's the trick.
Yeah, how did he guarantee they would actually take her away?
He did it by weaponizing the internal database. Just 15 days after Lawana moved into her home, Officer Romero labeled her a threat to society in internal police documents.
Unbelievable.
By doing this, he placed her on a secret Oakland Police Department watch list. She was assigned subject number 959669000.
A secret watch list just 15 days after moving in. I mean, that is incredibly fast.
It is lightning fast. And the specific labeling of Lawana as a threat to society was a very deliberate tactical choice.
How so?
Well, by putting her on this watch list with that exact classification, Romero ensured that any future police response to her address wouldn't be handled as a standard neighbor dispute.
Because if it's just a neighbor dispute, the cops show up, tell everyone to calm down and, go get coffee.
Precisely. But with that watch list designation, it guaranteed that responding officers would treat her situation as a 5150.
Which is the psych hold.
Right. That is the California Welfare and Institutions Code for an involuntary psychiatric hold. It framed her not as an annoyed neighbor, but as an unstable, dangerous individual experiencing a severe mental health crisis.
Hold on, though. How does a cannabis unit officer even have the jurisdictional authority to initiate a 5150 mental health hold?
That's a great question.
Doesn't that require a psychiatric professional, or at least like a patrol unit, to physically witness the erratic behavior first? How did he bypass that check?
He bypassed it by exploiting the inherent trust placed in the database. In a massive bureaucracy, like a city police department, the database is the ultimate source of truth. When officers are dispatched to a scene, they look at their mobile data terminals in their cruisers.
So whatever the computer says goes.
Exactly. If the system says the subject is a threat to society under subject number 95966900000, they do not question the origin of that data. They assume it was vetted and entered through proper channels.
Wow.
Romero knew that if he input the data, the system would unquestioningly execute it.
It's like he wrote a malicious code into the police database.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, if you think about it like a computer virus, Romero writes this code, the fake reports, the watch list designation, the 5150 framing, and once he hits enter, the system just goes on autopilot.
Yep.
The officers who eventually respond are basically just executing the infected code, using mental health protocols as the weapon to take her out of the equation.
What's fascinating here is the sheer terrifying effectiveness of a closed-loop structure. And when I say closed loop, I mean a bureaucratic system where the inputs and the outputs are controlled by the exact same entity.
Right.
It is completely insulated from any external reality or independent verification.
So there's no outside auditor coming in to say, hey, wait a minute, did anyone actually see this woman acting crazy?
Exactly. The same person, Officer Romero, who creates the fraudulent legal predicate, is deeply embedded in the very system that executes it. He removes all outside checks and balances.
Because he's on the inside.
Right. When the system looks to verify why this woman needs to be detained, it looks at the paperwork. And who wrote the paperwork?
Officer Romero.
Officer Romero. The system validates itself based on his fabricated inputs.
It's terrifying because it bypasses the need for physical evidence entirely. The paperwork itself becomes the physical evidence. He didn't need to be on the scene. He didn't need to witness a crime. He just needed administrative access. And by controlling the database, he controlled the reality that every other officer in the department would experience when they looked up LaWanna Reed's name.
Which brings us to the actual physical execution of this manufactured reality. Because paper trails and database entries are one thing. But to finalize this closed loop, Romero needs officers on the ground who will treat his digital fiction as physical reality.
He needs foot soldiers.
He needs people to go to a citizen's house and physically kidnap them under the guise of mental health hold. And that collision between paper and reality happens on October 1st, 2019.
Right. So let's talk about the events of October 1st, specifically starting at 1740 or 5:4 p.m. Because thanks to the meticulous second-by-second breakdown of the body cam footage in the source material, we can examine this literally frame by frame.
It's quite the watch.
And I have to say, reading this breakdown, it honestly feels like reading a director's commentary track for a really, really badly produced community theater stage play.
It really does.
It is literal street theater.
It is highly choreographed, but poorly executed. The police incident recall shows that the responding officers, Mark Wilson and Victoria Dinardi, arrived on the scene at exactly 17:4.
Okay.
But their body cameras do not actually capture any footage until 17:43.52.
Almost 4 minutes later, you're telling me they pull up to a scene where they are supposedly responding to an erratic, dangerous threat to society, and they just hang out in silence for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
What are they doing in that dead space?
That nearly 4-minute gap is critical. That is 3 minutes and 52 seconds of planning, coordination, and conversation that happen completely off camera before they decide to start recording the official narrative.
Unbelievable.
In police procedure, especially when responding to a supposedly volatile 5150 call, body cameras are supposed to be rolling the moment they exit the vehicle. Delaying activation gives them time to confer with Moses Jacko Jr. without a permanent record being made of their true initial interaction.
So they're getting their story straight. So at 17:43.52, the cameras finally click on. Officer Wilson is already standing on Moses Jacko's porch. You can't see Jacko fully, but the camera catches a glimpse of his hand.
Right.
There's no audio yet because body cams usually have a buffer period before the mic kicks in. Then Officer Dinardi comes into frame, and here is a massive glaring detail. At 17:44.05, Dinardi is clearly visible on Wilson's camera, talking and gesturing. But Dinardi never turns her own body camera on while she is on Jacko's property.
Which is an absolute fundamental violation of police policy across the board.
I mean, obviously.
Body cameras are mandated to be activated during all investigative encounters, full stop. Choosing not to activate it while taking statements from a reporting party or an informant is a deliberate, conscious choice to avoid creating a dual-angle record of the conversation.
I just don't understand how you justify that. How does an officer stand on a porch, actively participating in an investigation, knowing her partner's camera is rolling, and just decide, I'm going to leave mine off?
It happens when officers want to control the field of view. If Dinardi's camera is off, she can look at things, reference notes, or make signals that Wilson's camera might not catch because of where his chest is pointed. It allows them to curate the visual evidence.
It's the visual equivalent of whispering so the microphones don't pick it up.
Precisely.
So Wilson's camera is on, But the audio is off. Donardi's camera is completely off. They are on the porch with Jocko, and then at 17.44.14, the play officially begins. We get the fake exit.
The staged exit and re-entry is perhaps the most surreal, undeniable proof of collusion in this entire event. On Wilson's camera, you see him and Donardi pretend to leave Jocko's house.
Right.
They physically turn their backs to the house, walk down the front walkway toward the street, moving away from the porch.
Right. They are pantomiming that the interaction is over or, hasn't started yet. They are walking away. But then Donardi looks over at Luana's house next door. She turns her head back, and both officers immediately turn around and walk right back up the walkway to Jocko's porch. And while they're doing this little pirouette on the sidewalk, Wilson's camera catches Jocko running back inside his house.
Yes. The footage shows Jocko running inside, attempting to close his front wooden door and the screen door. But then he looks out, sees the officers coming back up the walkway toward him, so he turns right back around, pushes the doors open, and steps back out onto the porch.
It is so incredibly staged. They literally gave him a physical cue to go inside so he could come back out and pretend to greet them for the very first time on camera.
It's absurd.
Because right at 17.44.23, after this bizarre dance routine, Wilson finally turns on the audio on his body cam. He pulls out his pen, gets his notepad ready, and initiates the scripted dialogue.
And if you analyze the dialogue, it is incredibly stiff and formal. Wilson asks, "So what is your name again, sir?" And today is October 1st. It is 5:44 p.m. Okay, so what time did this happen this morning?
What is your name again, sir? You've been standing on his porch for 4 minutes.
Exactly. He is formally stamping the time and establishing the narrative for the record, completely pretending he hasn't been conversing with this man off audio for the last 232 seconds.
And Jocko launches into this monologue that sounds like he memorized it off a flashcard. At 17.44.35, he says, "Oh, this happened at 1 o'clock this morning. I get up and do a routine. She came out on her porch and yelled, 'Gang stalker.'"
Right, making sure to hit the key phrases.
Exactly. He feeds them exactly the narrative they need to justify the 5150 hold that Romero already placed in the database.
Yeah.
He paints her as erratic, yelling at 1:00 a.m., using bizarre terminology like gang stalker.
They spend several minutes building this manufactured psychological profile on camera. Wilson asks leading questions. Jocko provides the necessary predetermined answers.
A completely rehearsed Q&A.
Yes, they are systematically checking the boxes required to fulfill the criteria of the watch list designation. They are acting out the script that justifies taking Luana away in handcuffs.
But the thing about bad actors, especially amateur bad actors, trying to pull off a conspiracy on the fly, is that they eventually drop character. Or they forget their lines.
They always do.
And the slip-up in this footage is just, well, it would be hilarious if it wasn't leading to an innocent woman's kidnapping.
Yeah.
At 17.47.33, right in the middle of building this fake case against Luana, Jocko just blurts out, completely unprompted, Romero, John Romero.
He essentially breaks the fourth wall of their staged production.
He really does.
He names the architect of the conspiracy out loud, on tape, to the officers who are supposed to be conducting an impartial, independent investigation.
And Wilson is completely caught off guard. You can almost feel the panic radiating through the body cam footage. He just says yes and gives this incredibly nervous chuckle.
Oh, that's chuckle.
Like, haha, please stop talking. And Jocko, clearly not realizing he's saying the quiet part loud, adds, "That's my cousin."
That specific moment is devastating to their defense because it firmly establishes the familial connection and the underlying motive on the official record, despite all their efforts to conceal it with the fake exits and the delayed audio.
It's all right there on tape now.
But the collusion becomes even more physically explicit later in the footage. At 18.03.14, after they have finished their staged interview and are moving to execute the arrest on Luana, Officer Wilson approaches Officer Donardi and explicitly asks her, you still got the RP?
The RP card, the reporting party card.
Exactly.
The very document that Officer John Jocko Romero authored from his desk. Donardi hands it to him, and it has Jocko's information and Luana's name on it. This piece of paper literally ties the man who just bragged about being the cousin to the officer who ordered the arrest.
Yes.
The circle is complete right there on camera.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this kind of glaring slip-up reveals a lot about how corrupt systems operate. Systemic arrogance breeds profound sloppiness.
What do you mean by that? Because, if I were staging a fake arrest, I would make sure every single detail was airtight. I wouldn't let the informant just shout out my co-conspirator's name.
You would want it airtight because you assume you will be scrutinized.
Right.
These officers did not operate under that assumption. They didn't feel the need to be perfect in their execution. They didn't need to rehearse the lines flawlessly or make sure the body cams were perfectly synchronized or hide the RP paperwork better.
Because they thought no one would ever see it?
Precisely. They operated under the absolute assumption that they controlled the evidence. They believed they owned the footage in the paper trail. So a nervous chuckle about a cousin or a flash of an RP card didn't matter.
Wow.
They never, ever imagined an independent eye, let alone a federal court or a civilian, would dissect this tape second by second.
You're so right. If you're going to stage a play, you don't care if you flub a line. If you know you're the only one who owns the theater, you own the film, and you are the only one who ever gets to watch the movie.
Yeah.
It is sheer, unadulterated arrogance. They thought they were completely untouchable.
But their entire stage narrative, the whole justification for detaining Luana under a 5150 mental health hold, relied entirely on one specific premise.
Painting her as erratic.
Yes, painting her as erratic, dangerous, and mentally unstable. That was the core requirement under the law to make the kidnapping look legal.
Right, because if she isn't acting crazy, you can't put her on a psych hold.
Which brings us to the most crucial question of all. We know what the police said happened.
Right.
We know they scripted a narrative saying she was yelling gang stalker at 1 a.m. and acting out of her mind. But what did the actual footage of Luana show?
That's the million-dollar question.
When they finally made contact with her on her property, how did she actually behave?
That is the pivotal piece of evidence that turns this from a questionable arrest into a documented conspiracy. And to answer that, we have to look at a document that serves as absolute, undeniable proof of Luana's innocence and her true demeanor.
Yes. We are talking about the January 24th, 2020 email from Associate Deputy Public Defender Amy Gollenveau.
Let's contextualize this for a second. Who is Amy Gollenveau, and why does her email carry so much weight?
An Associate Deputy Public Defender is an officer of the court. Their job is to represent individuals who have been charged with crimes or detained by the state.
Right.
In the course of representing Luana, Gollenveau had the legal right to request and review the discovery materials, which includes the unredacted body camera footage from that day.
So this email is the smoking gun. It is the silver bullet. Because it's not just Luana saying, hey, I was calm, I swear.
No, not at all.
It is an officer of the court, a legal professional trained to analyze evidence, who has watched the withheld body camera footage and is putting her professional assessment in writing.
Let's deconstruct exactly what Amy Gollenveau wrote in that email. She states directly to Luana, I did review the female officer's body-worn camera and do agree that you did not come outside to tell your side of the story. She goes on. I think it comes across rather well on the camera footage that you were only concerned that he filed another false police report, and were not suggesting in any way that something else took place.
It comes across rather well on the camera footage that you were only concerned that he filed another false police report. I mean, how do you watch a video of someone standing calmly, expressing normal annoyance about a false report, and write them up as an erratic threat to society?
You can't. Not honestly.
That one sentence from the public defender completely shatters the entire police narrative. It just annihilates it.
The implications of this email are profound from a legal standpoint. It factually exonerates Luana from the behavioral accusations made by Jocko and supported by the officers.
Completely exonerates her?
Yes. The footage proves she was calm, rational, and entirely innocent of the manufactured claims. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't a danger to herself or others. She was simply a homeowner tired of her neighbor's harassment.
And it wasn't just the body cam footage that fell apart, right? What happened to all that paperwork Romero filed?
It collapsed under judicial review. Gollenveau notes in the same email that the restraining order, the TRO, that Officer Romero helped prepare to justify the initial hostility was ultimately denied by the court.
Wow.
And the court specifically cited that it was denied due to Jocko's baseless claims.
So the court throws out the restraining order because it's complete nonsense. The public defender watches the tape and confirms Luana was perfectly calm and rational.
Yep.
The entire foundation of the October 1st kidnapping crumbles the second anyone outside the police department actually looks at the evidence.
Exactly. The independent evidence proved the officers were lying. It proved the detention was a kidnapping based entirely on fabricated grounds designed to protect an illegal operation.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Once this Oakland Police Department realized that the body cam footage didn't support their fake narrative, once they realized the footage actually proved that their own officers committed a crime by kidnapping a calm, innocent woman they knew they had a massive liability problem.
A huge problem.
They realized they could never, ever let the general public or Lawana herself get a copy of that tape.
And that realization transitions us from the crime itself into the mechanics of the cover-up.
Right.
Cover-up that is so deeply entrenched, so fundamentally baked into the bureaucracy of the city that it brings us all the way to the present day, to March of 2026.
6 years. They have been hiding this footage for over 6 years. And the way they're doing it is an absolute masterclass in bureaucratic hypocrisy.
Let's look at Lawana's next request FOIA filing, and specifically Request 262797, which was filed just recently on March 14th, 2026.
For context, Next Request is the digital portal many municipalities use to handle Freedom of Information Act or Public Records Act requests from citizens.
Right.
It is supposed to be a tool for transparency.
Right. You log on, you say, I want the police report from this day, and theoretically they give it to you. But this public records request explicitly calls out the stark, undeniable double standard in how the Oakland Police Department handles evidence.
Lawana points out in her filing that she has been fighting for 6 years to get the unredacted body cam footage of her own kidnapping, specifically the footage from Officer Gennardi that Amy Gollenvo watched.
The footage proving she was calm.
Right. The footage showing Lawana calmly asking about the false report.
And the OPD refuses to give it to her month after month, year after year. Yet in that exact same FOIA request, Lawana points to a glaring contradiction.
Oh, this part makes my blood boil.
She notes that when the celebrity gossip site TMZ submitted a request for police footage referenced in one of their articles, the Oakland Police Department opened and processed that TMZ request immediately.
TMZ, a tabloid website, gets priority service.
The hypocrisy is structural. The department proves, through their actions with TMZ, that they are entirely capable of quickly locating, processing, and releasing police footage when media attention is involved.
Of course they are.
They have the staff, the technology, and the workflow to make it happen almost instantly. But simultaneously, they maintain an absolute, unyielding refusal to release the unredacted footage that documents the kidnapping of a civilian who has been begging for it for over half a decade.
So how do they justify this? How does a police department legally tell a victim, no, you can't see the video of us kidnapping you on your own front porch, but here you go, TMZ, here's your celebrity gossip video? Like, what is the legal shield they are using?
They hide behind the law itself. They weaponize the very statutes designed to protect the public.
Give me an example.
Well, the department's official response to Lawana explicitly cites specific California government codes to justify withholding the tape. First, they cite Gov Code 7923.600.
What exactly is 7923.600?
It is the law enforcement records exemption. Its original intent is to protect ongoing active investigations. If the police are currently investigating a murder, they don't want to release records that might tip off the suspect.
That makes sense in theory.
Sure. But here, they're using it to hide a closed 6-year-old incident where the only suspects are the officers themselves.
That's absurd. What else do they use?
They cite Gov Code 7922.000, which are privacy exemptions meant to prevent unwarranted invasions of personal privacy. And they cite Gov Code 7927.700 to protect personal identifying information.
Wait, stop. They are telling Lawana that giving her the video of her own kidnapping would be an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. Whose privacy?
The privacy of the officers.
You have got to be kidding me.
This raises an important question, perhaps the most important philosophical and legal question of this entire case.
Yeah.
How can privacy laws, which were enacted by lawmakers to protect private citizens from government overreach and surveillance, be inverted and used by the government to protect the privacy of officers committing a crime against the very citizen requesting the records?
It makes my head spin. It is Kafkaesque. They are essentially saying, we can't show you this video of us falsely arresting you because it would violate the privacy rights of the officers who falsely arrested you. It is the ultimate perversion of the law. They are using the shield of privacy as a sword to attack accountability.
It creates an impenetrable fortress around police misconduct. In their official response to her requests, they state, the redactions applied to the recording are necessary to protect the privacy rights of individuals and to preserve law enforcement interests.
Law enforcement interests.
They literally argue in writing that hiding evidence of a false arrest and a conspiracy is a valid law enforcement interest. And they tell her she cannot have the unredacted tape without a valid court order.
So they force the victim to spend years and thousands upon thousands of dollars fighting in federal court just to see what happened to her on her own front porch. It's a war of attrition.
That's exactly what it is.
And if you think that is bad, we have to talk about the final, most sickening twist in this entire closed-loop system, because it actually gets worse.
It does. We find this revelation in the Federal Rule 59 e-filing.
Okay, before we drop the bombshell, explain the Rule 59 motion to me like I'm a first-year law student. What is this document, and why is it the key to cracking open the cover-up?
In federal civil procedure, a Rule 59e is a motion to alter or amend a judgment. It is typically filed when a party believes the court has made a manifest error of law or fact, or if there is newly discovered evidence that was previously unavailable.
Okay, got it.
In Lawana's civil suit against the city, this motion details exactly why she was unable to uncover the full extent of this conspiracy during the normal discovery phase. And the reason she couldn't uncover it is the ultimate fox in the henhouse scenario.
The architect of the entire nightmare, Officer John Jaco Romero, the man who wrote the fake citizens crime report, the man who drafted the fake restraining order, the man who authored the RP card ordering the arrest from his desk, the cousin of the illegal grower.
Where did the Oakland Police Department assign Officer Romero after all this went down?
He was subsequently assigned to the police records unit. I almost can't comprehend the audacity of that. The man who authored the fake arrest documents was promoted or transferred directly into the department that controls the public's access to those exact documents.
It's hard to believe, but it's true.
He was put in charge of processing and redacting the public records requests about his own crimes.
It is the absolute terrifying completion of the closed-loop system. The federal motion explicitly states that while Lawana was filing hundreds of requests for information, the city acknowledged that Officer Romero was assigned to the records unit, and that he actively participated in processing and redacting responsive materials related to her case.
But didn't anyone catch this? Didn't the city see him redacting his own files?
The city defended it. They called them standard redactions.
Standard.
But those redactions were specifically blacking out information directly bearing on Romero's identity, his authorship of the fraudulent documents, and his deep involvement in the conspiracy.
He was sitting at a desk looking at Freedom of Information requests from a woman whose life he ruined, asking for proof of his corruption. And he was taking a digital black Sharpie and erasing his own name.
He was.
He was legally allowed by the city of Oakland to erase himself from the crime scene.
As the federal filing argues, where the individual connected to the underlying unconstitutional conduct is also involved in redacting the records that would reveal that very conduct, discovery of the facts is fundamentally impossible.
It's a rigged game.
Completely. He controlled the narrative in 2019 when he ordered the arrest via the database, and he controlled the history from 2020 to 2025 by destroying the evidence of it.
Put yourself in Lawana's shoes for a second. Think about the psychological toll it takes on a person. You know you are innocent. You know the Kate proves it.
Yeah.
You submit a request for your own data, something any of us could do tomorrow on our city's website, and it just comes back blacked out.
Yeah.
The federal filing says she submitted approximately 375 Public Records Act and FOIA requests over those 6 years.
375 attempts to pierce the bureaucracy.
375 times she asked the system for the truth, and every single time the system sent back blacked out pages or denied the request entirely.
It's staggering.
And years later, you find out the guy pushing the deny button on his keyboard was the exact same guy who framed you in the first place. The absolute gaslighting of that. Well, it is a form of psychological torture.
It is bureaucratic psychological torture, and it is designed to exhaust the citizen. The system relies entirely on attrition.
Just wearing you down.
Exactly. They know that 99.9% of people will simply give up after the 10th, 20th, or 50th denied request. By hiding behind complex California government codes and utilizing the perpetrators themselves as the gatekeepers of the evidence, the department ensures that the truth remains permanently buried under a mountain of redacted paperwork.
It's so bleak.
They outweight you. They outspend you. And they use your own tax dollars to do it.
It is breathtaking in its malice and its efficiency. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, let's summarize the absolute documented reality of what these sources prove. The evidence shows that an Oakland police officer manufactured a threat against an innocent woman simply to protect his cousin's illegal cannabis operation.
Right.
He used secret internal watch lists and California mental health protocols to legally kidnap her from her home. Other officers staged body cam footage, literally rehearsing lines and pantomiming exits to justify the arrest.
Mm-hmm.
A public defender proved the withheld tapes showed her total innocence. And instead of holding anyone accountable, the department embedded the orchestrator into their records department to weaponize privacy laws and hide the exonerating video from the victim for over 6 years.
All while happily handing over tape to TMZ.
Exactly.
That is the factual summary of the closed-loop system in action. And it is functioning exactly as it was designed to function.
So, what does this all mean? Why does this matter to you, listening to this right now? It matters because this deep dive proves that the tools we are told exist for our protection and our transparency, digital public record systems, the Freedom of Information Act, police body cameras, all of these can be effortlessly inverted.
They can.
They can be turned into cloaking devices for corruption. The cameras only turn on when the script is ready to be performed. The FOIA requests only get approved when they protect the department or feed a media narrative. The system doesn't just fail, it actively, maliciously works against you.
It forces us to confront a very dark reality about the nature of data, authority, and transparency. If a government agency can cite personal privacy to prevent you from seeing a video of your own kidnapping, then the system isn't broken. It is working perfectly.
Wow.
Who truly owns the data of your own life? If the state can film you, falsely arrest you, and then claim they own the copyright to the memory of your trauma, then we have to fundamentally rethink what transparency actually means in the modern era.
That is a chilling thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Don't ever stop questioning the records you are allowed to see, and more importantly, the ones you aren't. We'll see you next time.